Hello. Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Holly MacKenna from Dara Wellness. I'm here for the big, easiest ways to wellness. And I'm going solo today because it's game day. NBA starting. Pretty excited. Pelicans, if you can see it. Here we are. I'm blinged out. I can't show it fully on camera. Maybe if I back up a little bit. Yep, there we go. Whoop, So hello and welcome. I wanted to take advantage of it being the start of the NBA season to maybe think about how those of us who aren't in the bubble can bring ourselves more towards center. I use the center court as my reference, but really centering ourselves with our day-to-day lives. So when I'm talking about this, I actually thought of this morning. I had already set this up, but thought of this specifically this morning when I was driving to work. When I went past a mom who was pushing her baby in a stroller just there on the street. I think she may have glanced up to see that I was driving towards her and veered her baby off of the street, but then immediately went back to her phone, which she was doing something with while pushing the buggy down the street on a beautiful day in New Orleans. It's actually sunshine outside, not raining, gorgeous. I was actually not happy with myself for not choosing to walk because it was such a lovely morning. So, but at the same time, that sounds really judgmental. No judgment, because I've been there like more times than I can count. And I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be a super busy professional parent, having a lot going on, having the pandemic happening, having things happen with work that are changes that maybe you didn't plan for or aren't sure how it's going to go. Getting things in the mail that might throw you for a loop, whether it be bills that Entergy decided to jack up or what have you, and trying to navigate that and trying not to constantly feel like you're in this state of dread, lots of anxiety, lots of reacting, and not really feeling like yourself. Another great example of this is this morning, my dear husband, who is, ready for his job today with the Pelicans, couldn't find our youngest child's bag for camp. And I couldn't find it either. For the life of us, we started wondering, did we leave it here in my office when the kids were here the other day, which wouldn't really make sense, but we decided that must be where it was because we looked everywhere. We looked where he remembered putting it. We asked the 3-year-old, who's like super reliable, and of course he had no idea where it was. 8-year-old's a little more reliable on a good day, but she had no clue. Couldn't find it. He took the kids to camp. Lo and behold, as I was eating breakfast and we were chatting about what was happening today, I look over his shoulder on the couch and there's the bag hanging out, chilling, where it was the entire time. So all that to say that basically so many times in our day and our lives, we are not paying attention. We may think we're paying attention, but that's not what's actually happening. I mean, I can't even count on two hands how many times I have people come to me as patients or concerned friends or what have you, wondering if at the grand old age of 45, am I getting dementia because I can't remember what my wife just told me yesterday when I was supposed to pick something up from the store or what have you. Time and time again, we worry about our memory. We worry that we're not absorbing things. We start going to worst case scenario. And oftentimes it's because we're not being mindful. We're not living in the moment. We're not being present. And we're not being able to pay attention when our spouse tells us to pick up something from the dry cleaning, or when we put the bag down on the couch, or when we're pushing our baby's buggy down the street. We're not paying attention to what's happening around us. And really, I can talk about like doing that, but what does that mean? Like, how do you do that? So that's where mindfulness comes into play. And that's why folks like myself who are in integrative medicine or in mind-body medicine, or all the different areas that like to talk about these things. The reason we love it so much is because it's a practice that you can do, preferably daily, sometimes more than once a day if you really get into it, which is great, that helps build up your brain power and ability to be present in the moment. It's like super cool. The brain is like a fascinating thing. We don't know as much about it as maybe we do a lot of the other organs. And the more we learn about it, the cooler and more geeked out I get. So when I talk about mindfulness, if we were having an interactive conversation, I might see what you guys thought mindfulness means. But I'll simplify it. So Jon Kabat-Zinn is the person who's thought of as one of the fathers of mindfulness for the Western world. So he is actually a scientist from MIT who came across mindfulness when he was interacting with a Zen master who taught it to him. And because he was a scientist, he not only enjoyed the experience and went with it, but then also started wondering, like, dude, what's up with this? Like, why am I feeling calmer? Why am I being able to pay more attention? Why is my blood pressure lowering? And so he developed what we call mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is this 8-week course that basically goes through different types of mindfulness. It's pretty cool in that every week, the people doing it try on a different type of mindfulness. Because, when you talk about mindfulness, people might say like, oh, it's like Buddha on the mountaintop. Well, there's a lot of different ways to engage in mindfulness. It's pretty cool. So anyway, his definition of mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment with intention while letting go of judgment as if your life depends on it. So, okay, that's cool. The judgment is the part that throws most of us for a loop, because when you really start paying attention to what your brain is doing, whether it be when you're on a walk or if you're actually doing a sitting practice and trying to pay attention to your breath, you'll notice how much your brain likes to judge what's happening. And that's how we survive, right? Like, we need to judge, like, when I put my hand on the stove and the switch is at a certain way, it's going to be hot. Like, that is a way that we survive and don't hurt ourselves. When it's yesterday, when it looked kind of dark outside and I heard thunder, I'm able to judge that looks like a storm is coming and maybe I should bring my umbrella, which I forgot to do, but that's why I need to be more mindful. So these are, judgments are helpful to help survive, but when you start paying attention to your brain doing it, you realize you're also judging a lot of, like, oh, she wrote that in her Facebook post, or she's wearing that to do Tai Chi, or, these are judgments that maybe aren't so pleasant, that we don't like to face, that we're doing. And so when you do notice yourself judging in a way that maybe isn't a way that you find in alignment with your values, the trick is to not judge yourself for judging. So notice you're judging, but forgive yourself for judging, and then move on, because you're going to have something else to try not to judge later. So it's okay. So, as we go through what mindfulness is, I want you to realize that, there's a lot to it. There's a reason that we talk about it being so great. So being mindful, being present in that moment, allows you to not only pay attention to the weather outside or where you put that bag, but also allows you to have conversations that are more effective. So what I mean by this is that when I'm practicing mindfulness in my own regular practice, or I'm allowing myself to be present in the moment, if I have a conversation with my dear husband or my 3-year-old who's having a fit, as he did this morning, or a dear friend who maybe I upset by saying something I didn't mean, I'm able to hear what's coming at me. And then I have this freedom of the moments between what comes at me and how I respond to it. Because mindfulness allows you to take that pause in between that is normally filled with emotion. Oftentimes, when we are really emotive, especially at times like now with the pandemic, with elections coming up, with schools possibly opening or not, and the uncertainty around things like that, sports not happening the way that we wanted, whatever it is that's causing stress for us. I could list all the things, but that's not what I want to do today. It's really easy to just react and have something come at you that maybe isn't pleasant in your mind, see it from your point of view and your own biases, and then just react to it in a way that may not be so great. And you might regret later because, I mean, I've been there. I am 100% Irish. I think I've told you all that before. Married to an Italian, so we have our moments. And this is something I've had to look at for myself and try to figure out, how can I more effectively communicate with people without letting my Irish temper get in the way? How can I model all that for my kids who, God bless them, are half Irish and half Italian, and definitely let themselves just react to things in an emotional way? Well, practicing mindfulness, building that muscle in your brain, for lack of a better way of saying it, allows you to have something come at you, have that moment in between to pause, to reflect, to think about what your values are, and then to respond. And there's so much power in that. It really is a superpower. It's super exciting. And, you know, I really hope you guys will try it out, because I just can't say enough. So if that hasn't convinced you, you might be looking at this pandemic and really worried about your health, which is understandable. In the integrative medicine world, we kind of see this as a pandemic within a pandemic, in that we already have a pandemic, especially in American culture, of not eating the best foods, not having the best lifestyle, using our iPhones or Androids into the late hours, having that blue light come at us, not sleeping well, all the things. Mindfulness is one tool that you can use to try to undo some of the things that might be causing some illness. So, you know, eating not things that aren't great for you, not sleeping well, all those things can lead to things like blood pressure problems, obesity, diabetes, all the things. Well, the cool thing about mindfulness is that it is a tool that can help negate some of those things, or work in a positive way to help you lower your blood pressure. So it's actually been found with studies, and I've seen this in real time when I've done it with patients. I've seen the reports from them. I've seen their vital signs. Blood pressure lowers when you start practicing mindfulness. Super cool, right? Your heart rate will lower. You'll see that in real time when you're practicing in the practice of mindfulness. In that actual time, you'll notice your pulse will lower. You will also have, biologically, if we were drawing your blood, the stress hormones that cause things like elevated blood pressure, elevated heart rate, elevated respiratory rate. Those stress hormones like cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, they actually lower, which is super cool, because when they are elevated, that makes us go into a state that we call fight or flight. So for those who aren't familiar with that, that is basically what makes you ready if a Louisiana black bear came into my office behind me here. Like, that would be what would make my blood start pumping, make my blood pressure go up, put all my blood going towards my arms and legs so I can run, make my heart rate go up, as I said, and my respiratory rate go up so I can get oxygen to get that out of here. But now, if you're doing that and elevating all those things in a state where you don't need to be ready to run, like you're not actually being threatened in a way that's going to damage you or your people, having that happen can actually be damaging. It can lead to actual significant damage within your health. Having cortisol elevated, for example, also increases the blood sugar that is in your body. So when that is elevated for a period of time, especially chronically, that can lead to different changes within your body, so that it's harder to digest things. You might be starting to deposit some fat around your middle, and even develop things like diabetes. Like, those things can all happen related to having chronic stress. So anything we can do to decrease that is going to be super helpful. And mindfulness is just one tool that you can try out. And like I said, there's tons of different ways to do it. It also helps with concentration. So like I mentioned to you this morning, how we unsuccessfully looked for a bag for my son until we were both more relaxed. Later, we found it without even looking. Practicing mindfulness allows you to be present in the moment, and that's going to help with your concentration. It also helps with that focus. And then related to those hormones that I was talking about, it actually strengthens your immunity, which is super, super cool and helpful for times like now when we have this pandemic happening and not a clear way to fight it other than building our own immunity and strength until we get to a place where things are a little safer. So additional benefits when we're looking at our health are things like decreasing depression and anxiety. Again, studies have been done on this. I've seen it in real time. I advise anyone I see to engage in some type of mindfulness, and we talk about different types when I see them. But it does decrease depression, decrease anxiety. Some mindful movement has been found to decrease post-traumatic stress disorder. All the things that we're dealing with right now have been shown to be helped with mindfulness. Pain. A lot of us have some pain issues. I have some back issues myself. I'm at a standing desk right now to help myself with that. And we'll be talking about that more actually next week. But when you engage in some mindfulness practices, they actually have looked at the brains of people who are people who've done mindfulness as a long-term practice. And when you look at their brains, they actually have changes where you are registering pain. And those changes are consistent with a decreased perception of pain, which is really cool. They found doing things like a body scan within the clinic can help people with chronic pain in real time so that in that moment, their pain, by just noticing the pain and that not fighting the pain and not adding suffering to the pain, allows them to experience less pain, which is super cool. I have chronic pain myself, and I did a body scan with the Mind Body Medicine folks in the Center for Mind Body Medicine and experienced that. And I was a doubter because I hadn't had great experiences with body scans before that. So there's something to this stuff, I promise. We also see within illnesses a lot less distress. Like I mentioned, the suffering with pain, we see less cardiovascular disease, partly because of what I mentioned with the blood pressure, the lowering of the heart rate, the lowering of those stress hormones. All those things are going to add up to less cardiovascular disease. Diabetes, I alluded to that already. Diabetes has been shown to improve with mindfulness. So they did a study on veterans. And I love my vets, but my vets also love them eating some of that Louisiana food. They don't always necessarily make the best choices with their diets. Love them. But they did a study looking at veterans. They compared them two different groups. One, just doing your traditional diabetes education. Those with diabetes are familiar with this. You go in, you meet with a nurse. They tell you what to eat. They tell you what not to eat. You go on your way, you do your best to start counting carbs, what have you. Well, they did that with one group, but with another group, they just added 10 minutes of mindfulness and just asked them to practice it on their own. That group's hemoglobin A1C, which is how we monitor the amount of sugar in your blood over the past several months before we do the blood draw, lowered significantly compared to the group who just had education. What? So you're lowering your stress. It makes sense, right? You're lowering your stress. That lowers those stress hormones like I talked about. That lowers the sugar in your body, lowers the fat deposits, lowers all the things, improves your diabetes. Hello, I love this. Still need to check your diet. I love my Louisiana food, but we still got to be careful with that. Add some vegetables, please. HIV, AIDS. So that is a virus that's come up because of some of the antivirals that we're trying out for COVID. So that virus actually attacks white blood cells, right? So they added some mindfulness to folks who are being treated for HIV, and their CD4 counts, which is how we monitor how severe the disease is, actually improved. So hello, immunity improvement. That's something that's significant that we want to pay attention to, again, during a time of a pandemic with a virus that we're not really sure how we're going to control. So Try it out. It's worth trying out, right? Transplant patients, folks who've been on chemo. These are all places where we brought mindfulness during chemotherapy, post-transplant, coming out of anesthesia. Adding mindfulness to these populations actually improves the quality of life. So these are things that are worth trying no matter what your situation is. Dude, I'm telling you, like, I wouldn't bullshit you. This is something worth trying. Like, I promise. I'm not one to waste people's time because I'm a busy person myself. My population that I love to treat are busy folks who have better things to do than be patients. So I'm telling you, this is stuff worth trying. So with that in mind, I think we should try a little sampling, okay? I'm just going to do basic belly breathing with you. And I'm going to close my eyes because I got nothing to hide. And my door's locked, so no black bears are going to come in. So what I'm going to do is just lead you through a basic belly breathing that the folks in Center for Mind Body Medicine teach as part of trauma recovery. Okay, super easy. You can do it anywhere. If you're driving or what have you, don't close your eyes. But if you're able to, you can join me in maybe relaxing a little bit, just kind of bringing your sense of awareness into your own body. If you're sitting down, maybe bringing your awareness to your seat where you might feel the pressure of the seat below you. If you're standing or even if your feet are on the ground, feeling the earth supporting you below you. And then just noticing your body in space. You know, as I notice, I might actually notice that my shoulders have been a little tight from talking because I like to use my arms. So maybe noticing if as I notice that might lower a little bit. And then just slowly bringing your attention to your belly. As you inhale, I encourage you to maybe try inhaling through your nose and then exhaling through your mouth. And as you're doing this, just try to soften that belly as best you can. You know, this is the opposite of what you might be told when you're doing yoga or working out. Maybe the opposite of what we would try to do when we're in our bathing suits in the summer, but just let it relax. Just inhale and exhale. If you feel like it, you could even add a bit of a sigh as you exhale. So inhaling through your nose and exhaling. And inhale. And if you notice any thoughts coming up, just notice them and let them go. Bring your attention back to that belly. Relaxing. Allowing yourself to be present in this moment. Maybe even realizing that you're sharing this moment with other people here on this live post, but also around the world. Thousands of people meditating or praying, all in this moment together. And then slowly bring your attention back to my voice and where you are in this moment, where you're sitting here with us here on live together. And just maybe notice how you feel. I'm feeling pretty calm myself, and I get worked up when I have to do things like Facebook Live because, you know, it's new and different. I'm gonna take a drink, excuse me. So that's like easy peasy, right? Like, I don't even know how many minutes we did it for. I should have looked at the clock, but that's mindfulness. Like, it's easy. It doesn't have to be like Buddha on the mountaintop. It can be something super simple. Listen, when you have things come up, like I mentioned, like if you are noticing thoughts coming up, like letting them go, that's normal. That's part of it being a mindfulness practice. That's why we call it a practice, because what makes it not something that everyone does right away, immediately, without fail, is that it does take practice. So it's like building a muscle, right? So you decide that you're going to focus on your breath or your belly or whatever that point of focus may be. And your brain goes there. You maybe close your eyes, you let your body do whatever's comfortable for you in the moment. And then thoughts come up, judgments come up. You start wondering, like, what the F is this girl doing? How long is she going to talk on this Facebook Live? She said this is going to be short. I got a lunch hour. Like, things start coming up. That's okay. Then you bring your attention back to what your point of focus was, like the belly, your breath, whatever it may be. Maybe you start going down the rabbit hole. Maybe you start thinking about, is Zion going to play tonight? Is he going to like start doing all the things? Is JJ going to have another crazy quarter where he's like scoring 20 points? Maybe he'll score 25. I don't know. When are we going to start playing in person? When are we going to be there together? All the things might start coming up, and you might really enjoy being on that tangent. This is where it gets hard. You bring your attention back to the focus. That's where it becomes an exercise. That's where you're really building your brain to focus. And it's okay. Like, hello, as you know, I love the Pelicans. Like, my brain goes there too. It's okay to do that. And you bring your attention back. You notice that's what you did, and you bring your attention back. Some days you'll have an easier time of it. Other days, not so much. That's okay. Now, maybe you're a person who has a lot of anxiety. Maybe noticing your breath is triggering for you. That's okay. There are other ways to do mindfulness. You can listen to a song. I would not listen to a song that necessarily has a lot of memories attached to it, maybe more like the Tai Chi type of song, which reminds me, if you look on TikTok or on my website, I did a little mindful movement for you. A song like that might be something that you listen to, something that's new. Just so you can only pay attention to the song. That's kind of an external way you can do some mindfulness. The Tai Chi I mentioned is a form of mindful movement. Now, mindful movement is like super cool and great, especially for those of us who like to exercise and find that that's where our jam is. Tai Chi, check out that TikTok I did. Really pedestrian, very accessible. I'm going to try to get a Tai Chi master on to talk to y'all at some point in the future, hopefully sooner than later, because I love me some Tai Chi. But it's really something that you can do. And a lot of folks on YouTube or locally are offering Zoom classes. Some folks are doing it out in the park. You can look up Tai Chi. I have some links on my website where you can look up some meetups and things like that. And people will help you learn the form. There's different types of forms, but it's very simple. And it's something that can be modified. So we have folks at the VA who do it with veterans in wheelchairs. So you can do it no matter how much movement you have, you can do it, I promise you. It is something that even if you use your brain to visualize yourself doing, because maybe you don't have movement in a part of your body due to a stroke or what have you, you're still building some connections within your brain. That's called neuroplasticity. You're still building some new connections that might help you in your physical therapy or whatever it is that you're doing to help improve some motion. So don't knock it, try it. It's really cool. Something else that's maybe even simpler, like if that just sounds like too much, like I don't want to do that in my living room. It's crazy town. I mean, I don't show you my living room for a reason. Our living room is crazy town on most days. Go for a walk. A mindful walk. I talked about that poor mom today, God bless her. If she had looked up from her phone, and maybe she did as soon as I passed, right? Like, no judgment. She could just be paying attention to what's going on around her and let that be a moment of mindfulness. Really seeing, like taking some time, noticing 5 things, see 5 things, smell a few things, see if you taste anything, see if you hear anything, like noticing what's around you, noticing if you see something new in the neighborhood, if you're taking a walk around your neighborhood, noticing how many rainbows are up, noticing if people are doing chalk drawings, whatever it is that will keep you in the moment, try that out. It's all good. So we're coming on just over the half hour. I don't want to keep you guys long. A quick acronym for if your mind wanders is SOLAR. So stop, observe, without judgment, let it go, and return to your object of focus. So SOLAR, SOLAR, stop, observe, let it go, and return to your object of focus. So one last skill I want to teach you, it's one of my favorites. It's called 4-7-8 breathing. The reason I like it is a natural, without medication, way of increasing your parasympathetic. Now, parasympathetic is the opposite of sympathetic system. You need both. You definitely need sympathetic to survive. You also need parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is your rest and digest. So that's when you're chilling, you're maybe watching your players in a state of flow, so you're not anxiety provoked about the game. You're doing something that's relaxing. You're able to digest without any problems. Your blood is going to your digestion and to all areas of your body, kind of keeping everything going, and allows your body to heal. It's a state where if we check your blood, you'll see products broken down from your brain and different areas of your body, because that's when your body is really kind of restocking everything, like restocking those shelves within your brain. So the parasympathetic is something that is kind of driven by your vagus nerve. And so we can control this with our breathing. We can do this with things like heart math, which I'll talk to you guys about probably next month. And also with this easy 4-7-8 breathing technique. Love it. So it is a natural sedative that you can do yourself. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, and exhale for a count of 8. That's it. Now I'm going to count for us because I don't have the feedback of you guys telling me that it's working or not. But if my counting is off, if I'm too fast, if I'm too slow, maybe you have some lung problems and you can't inhale as much as I'm counting, that's okay. You just want to exhale for twice as long as you inhale. That's the secret of 4-7-8. That's what's going to trigger that parasympathetic, that relaxation response. So let's try it, okay? I'll talk us through 4 rounds of it and then just see how you feel, okay? Let's do it. All right. So if you could, maybe if you feel safe where you are, close your eyes. If not, let them just have a soft gaze. I'll be closing my eyes, but you can watch me if you want. And just again, feel yourself comfortable in your space, whether you're sitting, standing, just feeling the earth supporting you. And then we're all going to exhale together. And inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Allow your breathing to go back to what's comfortable. Slowly bringing your attention back to your room, to where you are, to all the people on with you doing this practice, feeling all our energy together. And that when you're comfortable, you can open your eyes, come back to me, and just notice. When you build up that parasympathetic response, it's a lot easier to see what's happening around you and respond to it instead of reacting. And with that, I'm sending you so much love. Go Pelicans. I'm going to be practicing my mindfulness between the quarters. I'm going to be sending some good energy to the players and to all their families who aren't together, and to everyone out there who's dealing with the pandemic, whether you be a frontline worker or someone who's been dealing with the disease yourself or within your family or have a loss. Please feel my love and adoration for you and all my good thoughts. I love you guys. See you next week. Take care, all right?